Kubernetes performing the bootstrapping now, getting all the things, everything. So what this is doing, so the certificate signing request was sent to the API server, response was received, the kubelet was informed of a new resource connection details. Okay, so what it is doing here is writing the kubelet configuration to the file so and so, writing kubelet environment. Okay, so finally it is saying that one, it is already added. So if I go back and if I go back and run, okay, I'll do one thing, I'll put nodes in a different color. By the way, I'm going to right click, change settings, I'll go to the colors, and I'm going to give it in yellow. Okay, done. So what I'm going to do is, if I go ku get nodes, right, so you can see basically it is saying that one master, but it's not assigning any role, but it is ready. Let's do the same thing. Let's do the same thing for, sorry, same thing for the other machine, which is k node 2. Okay, so let's do this, and again we're going to do the same thing. By the way, I'm going to copy here and put it here and do it actually. So it's going to basically bootstrap, and what it was supposed to do is going to give you add one more node, by the way, one more node into it. So let's see, done. Okay, now let's go back and check it out, and this thing. But if you see, it's not showing roles actually, it's not doing, but still it's not coming ready. It should, no, it is ready. But what about these roles? So I'll do one thing, ku describe node, and I'm going to describe this node, and the response I'm going to get, let's go up and we need to go to the labels, and you see what it is doing. It is basically having a node role called as a master, by the way. Okay, let's do one thing. I'll say kubectl, okay, label node IP. What is the node one, by the way? Let's try to, I'm not sure which one is the first one. Let me see, I don't remember it. Let me see which one is node one. IP address is basically, if you come down, it's 102, by the way. Okay, I say 102, and I'm going to give I'm going to say like for example, say like worker, for example. Okay, so if I say ku get nodes, and you can see worker node, yes, good. So similarly, I'm going to change this to 21 as well, by the way. Okay, excellent. Ku get nodes, and you can see I have one master node, and I have, sorry, yeah, one master node and couple of worker nodes. And the Kubernetes version it is running is K 19.4. So I want to verify, is it the latest version, by the way? Let's do that. I'll say like I say Kubernetes GitHub, and if I come down, it is saying let's go to this one. It's not, don't worry about this one, you need to come down to see in the 19 version, right? So you need to go to all the releases. Let's go to releases, by the way. So okay, they released 1.20 also, but 1.19 should be the latest. So see this one, this is basically, if I go up in 1.8, this is the 18.12 is the latest release, by the way. If you are, and 1.19, they release like 5 and everything, but right now this is the main release. Okay, so right now we have 1.19.4. So that's what we are actually using it. Now one thing you need to understand here is, now Kubernetes has is very aggressive community basically, and many people are working on a Kubernetes, and there will be always updates coming in. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that you follow what is happening here. They'll say what are the changes. They'll have a change log actually, because if you are trying to upgrade, so people are going to say that no, we want to upgrade from 19.4 to 9.4 or 18 to 19. So you need to come to the change log and see if there is any impacts, what is going on. We need to study. That's a really pain job, but you need to do, especially you are doing the kube admin managing, right? So you should be checking out. You need to do the upgrade in your environment, check it out if it is working or not, and all these things. Okay, right. And Kubernetes supports it is like n minus 2. It supports n is the current version, and it supports until n minus 2. That means right now the live is 1.19, though it will support 1.18 and 1.17 by the way. Okay, that means if you have older version dot 1.7 like 1.16, they are not going to support basically, and you need to do a subsequent upgrades basically. I think there is somewhere where they say that every 6 months or something they're going to release it actually. Okay, right. So let me clear this. So what's next? So next thing is what we're going to do is what I want to do is I want to, let me change the color of this node as well. I want to run basic stuff here. Basic means I want to create a pod. I want to create a deployment, and I want to deploy it on this cluster basically. So and show you how things, and the service as well, what we did yesterday, right? How you going to do that when you use kubeadmin? It doesn't change the way. See, if you see at high level, you actually deployed yesterday using the cops, and here you're going to use and deployed the cluster using the kubeadm. Now there is a problem here. Why? Because if I shut down the master and start the master, right, your cluster will be gone, because right now HCD, right, HCD is inside the master basically. So and you have only one master, and you have only one master. So what you need to do, you need to put minimum of, if you're managing a production, and you need to put minimum of 3 masters, not 2. I'll explain later why is that. Because of the law raft algorithm, you need to put a minimum of 3 masters. Why? Because if at least one fails, still your cluster is working. If it is more than one fails, right, your cluster is gone. That is why if you see production environment, they'll put like 5 masters or 7 masters, because if you have 5 masters, 2 masters can fail, whereas you have 7 masters, 3 can fail. That is why in production environments you'll have more masters actually, and masters will be always in odd number, not in an even number, starting from 3, not 1. 3, 5, 7, 9, and you don't have any limit. You can put how many you want, depends upon supply and demand. Okay, right. Any questions here until now? Any questions, guys, before I proceed?
So even with COPS configuration, you will still have, in production domain, you'll have 3, 5, 7 masters, right? Even with
Yes.
COPS. Okay.
Yep. It
And then
depends. 3 is
how,
fine. You see, one thing, the major difference here is the HCD drive, right? Even if you have like a one server also, it is fine in COPS. Why? Because the HCD database is written to the person storage at the backend. So if I restore a snapshot, the machine from snapshot, it will try to go and talk to the HCD and get the details. So even one cluster, if you say that I'm okay with a 1 hour downtime or something, then I can go to the COPS. That is not the same case here.
so how about if a cluster is created through GCP or Azure? Even in that instance, do we have one master? How does that work in?
Simple answer, we really don't care. Why? Because that management is taken care of by the service provider, right? It is
Okay.
AKS or EKS or GKE. So we really don't need to bother. We really don't need to know, and we can't find it also, because at the back end they're responsible for making sure that the API server, I mean the management layer, is up and running. So that is what you're paying money for. So we don't need to worry about that.
Okay. And how often do you normally upgrade Kubernetes in real time?
Every year,
Okay,
because
thanks.
changes are coming every 6 months. So obviously, if the support is n minus 2, that means, and they support last 2, and every 6 months there is a release. So every year there should be at least one upgrade, right? Otherwise we'll fall behind, and there is no support for you.
Okay, thanks.
Questions, folks?
Yeah, I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let's say your network plugin is broken.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to kill all whole cluster and bring it up, or
No, that is why I always say, so what will happen is, see if the network plugin is broken, so what will happen is that depends upon what level of impact is there. Is it broken in one worker or there is no communication? That depends, right? If no communication is happening, then it's a big issue. It don't never normally never happens. Sometimes this might happen. Imagine you have three masters, by the way, and imagine I'm going to keep these masters in availability zone 1A, 1B, and 1C. Now imagine this is a leader. Normally in the master there will be a leader and there will be a follower basically, which I'll explain later. And all of a sudden there is some issue in the 1A, and 1A is network isolated basically. Okay, that means it's not reachable. So what will happen, there will be election happening these two, and one will become a leader, one will be a follower basically. So even there is a problem with the network, so those worker nodes are also isolated, and those pods, right, they'll be recreated on the remaining ones. Actually, that is what normally will happen. There is, if again, if I say the network is broken, if it is a big one, then obviously it will impact everything. If it is only one particular server or something, especially management plane, see, even the management plane goes down, even the API server goes down, your applications will work, by the way, but you can't deploy the new applications or manage the cluster, but still the applications will work. Okay, but imagine if there is something have a problem, some machines goes down, then no one is there to actually recreate those pods, so your management will get impacted, but applications still run.
got it. Yeah, thank you.
Questions? So clear, Rice? Okay, good for. And then I have one request. I know that some guys yesterday, Jairam and something, you guys sent the fee. Actually, the charts went down. Could you please message, like, just message hi or paid the fee, something, so that your charts will come up so that I can note down. That's why. Please go ahead, please, before the end of the class. Okay. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to do the same thing here. Deploy the pod, as well as deploy the or deployment, as well as a service actually here. Okay, and I want to check it out how it is different from there. Now if you deploy, let's try to do this one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, there's nothing different, but I want to show you how it works. So what I can do, ku ku run, I can say, like, pod one hyphen hyphen image is equal to nginx hyphen hyphen. Guys, you need to use dry run a lot basically, and see, hyphen output I can also get in JSON also if you want basically. So people think that Kubernetes only supports YAML. No, that's a misconception. If you want to write the code, right, you can also write in JSON also, by the way. Okay, no one is going to say anything, but YAML is user friendly, people will understand easily. That is why mostly we use YAML, not the JSON. Even Kubernetes supports JSON also. Okay, so if somebody asks you interview in the question, don't say that no, it won't support. It will support, but only thing is, for the feasibility of the user, we use the YAML. Okay, so I'm going to come down here and I'll do one thing. Okay, so this is basically the code, which the YAML code, which you can use it to deploy a pod actually. And I told you that you should not actually deploy a pod, but what you can do is, if you want, you can actually run multiple pods in this one. You can put multiple pods and run it actually basically, but we won't do that right now, because I need to explain the scenario when we need to use the multiple pods. We're going to, most probably we're going to talk about on Tuesday, no, on Thursday basically. Okay, this is the code for pod. Now the problem when you are running for the pod, as I explained yesterday, right, no guarantee for this one if it goes down. So what I can do, I normally when I'm doing lab, I'm not going to create a file, copy the file there and save it as a YAML. No. So I'm going to use something like this, echo, and I'm going to give a pipe. What is a pipe in Linux? Whatever the echo and whatever between the quotes, right, it is going to echo and given to then this one. So I say ku apply hyphen, you can use create and apply, the difference I'm going to talk later. Okay, so ku apply hyphen f and I give this one. So that means this will, whatever the echo, the output of the echo will be given as input to the ku apply command, and hit enter. And what it is saying, maybe it is already there. Okay, no, I use the, sorry, I use the capital, sorry, my bad. Kubernetes is very interesting. If you put concentration, if you, so but don't try to study it, don't try to study it, try to learn it actually. Okay, that will helps you. Studying nothing but, okay, this is Kubernetes, this is, no, learning is something you put your practical exposure. So it will be very interesting how it actually is running and everything. Okay, you can see ku get pods, and it's getting created. Now I want to know where exactly this pod is running. It will be simply, we can know it by hyphen give hyphen o icon wide. Actually, if you give wide, you will get a lot of information here. So for example, you can see like um, pod this is running on so 10.1.102, and you see the pod will have an IP. This is the IP of the pod actually. Okay, this is the IP of the pod. Now the problem, as I said, with the pod is, if by any chance if this particular node goes down 10.10.102, your pod goes down and it won't come back, because no one is there to look after that pod basically, right? That is where we actually go to the deployment, right? So I'll say ku create deploy. I'm going to give hyphen hyphen basic. I use the kubectl create deployment. I think I need to give like deploy 01 hyphen hyphen. I'm going to say image is equal to nginx replicas. Okay, I say replicas. Replicas is equal to 3, and is equal to 3, and I'm going to say hyphen hyphen dry run. So it will check it out. What will happen? It is saying that one, it is going to create the deployment, and it is saying that one dry run is depreciated. So I said dry run is equal to client. Okay, it's fine. And I'll say hyphen output YAML, and you get the whole code for your deployment, and I'm going to copy it for here actually. So my aim is from this class is to make you I don't say professional, but if somebody gives you the authentication and authorization to Kubernetes and want you, okay, go ahead and manage this cluster, you should be managing with confidence. So that is achievable by properly attending the class as well as practicing whatever I'm going to teach. So I don't think then you really don't need to provide any documentation, nothing guys. Why? Because when you are practicing, you will get hundreds of errors. So when you repeat that, when you solve that, obviously it will be, that's more than enough. Now I said 3 replicas, right? So I'm going to again copy this. I say again echo. Okay, deployment is created. Ku get pods, and you can see 3 pods basically. And how do you know it's a deployment? So you will see the deployment name. This is the deployment name. This is the replica set actually, and this is the actual pod name actually. As you can see, it is running. And if I want to say hyphen o wide by the way, and you can clearly see it is all the 3 pods are basically running on 3 different nodes actually, because normally it won't run on the master node. But what I did was I actually disable the taint right on the master node. That's why it is running on the master node. Now the point here, what we're going to do here is, by any chance if I remove some pod, so imagine I'm going to say like ku delete pod, and I'm going to delete the pod here actually, deploy, and dg4 w41 delete that. Okay, but what will happen at the back? And if I get pods again, you should see the new one is created. Which one? See, 3 seconds, this one is newly created. Okay, you can see, and it's created on the 10T1. This one gone, right? Again the same pod, it's some same machine is created. And this is the important thing you need to notice. Now the important thing you need to notice is, see the IP address, right? Let me show you something. Okay, I'm going to delete this ku, delete pod, and delete this. Obviously a new pod will be created, by the way. Let it delete. And if I go to get pods, a new pod is 9 seconds. You see the same IP is not repeating. Earlier it was 194, after that is 195, and it's 196. Okay, so one of the most important very important thing you need to understand in Kubernetes is every pod will have an IP address. Doesn't matter if it has like one container, two container, doesn't matter. A pod will have an IP address, and most importantly, you should not give value to the IP. Okay, you should not give value to the IP. Why? Because this is where there is a concept called as pets versus cattle. By the way, there is a concept called pets versus cattle. Okay, now what is pets, what is cattle? So if you take a dog for example, imagine you are a farmer, or farmer as well as do the animal husbandry. So what you can do, imagine you have a dog, a sheep dog, as well as imagine you also have a lot of sheep, for example. Okay, now if you see, the farmer will have an or the person will have an emotional contact with a dog actually when compared to the sheep. Why is that? Why is that? Because end of the day he knows that that sheep is going to go for some slaughterhouse, or some guy is going to convert that into a into a burger basically. Okay, so that's why you know that he's going to die, whereas dog is more like a family member. Now you need to apply the same thing here. Now what you need to understand is servers. When you are dealing with the servers, like it can be like your master node, as well as the as well as your worker node, as well as like your application servers, EC2 machines, virtual machines. Basically they are like pets actually. Why? Because you will be very careful about that one. And for example, master is there, you will be very careful about the master, backup is performed, HCD is done, and everything. But the pods, right, the pods or containers, the pods or containers I can say, are more like a sheep actually. They're like a cattle, because they can go wrong at any time. They can go wrong at any time basically, because at end of the day, a pod is nothing but a process running, that's it. Okay, if you really want to understand what is a container, by the way, there is a beautiful article, what is one a container, by the way, it's by Julia Evans, I think so. Yeah, she explained like it's very nice. What is saying that what even is a container? See, container don't have any value. Okay, I keep on saying that one container is not like some entity. It is a combination of namespaces and C groups. What I used to explain to my students is, imagine in a good season, what we used to get cyclones basically, right? Do we have anything actually called as a cyclone? If you say house, yes, house is there, but there is no cyclone, there is no object called cyclone there, because it was a depression happening on the ocean, and due to that one there is a big what we can say, something is coming on onto the shore basically, which is we call it as a cyclone, right? Similarly, there are some Linux features actually which are called as namespaces and groups. Whereas namespaces will give isolation, whereas control groups will give you the CPU and memory limits basically. Combining these two are actually called as a container. So let me tell you, for us container is something like something is running inside. From the operating system perspective, a container is nothing but, if I go to the task manager, see the Firefox service, Google service, go to meeting service, right? Similarly, a container is also a service, that's it, which can be crash at any time. So that is the reason, if you see a pod is crashed, it can be many things. There might be like memory issue, there might be CPU issue, node is bad, or application has some issue, or application is hanged actually. There are like thousand thousand ways the pod can die basically, and you don't get the same IP address again. It's not possible. That is why we actually compare pods or containers to what? To actually a cattle. And we're not going to have any emotional or like okay, this is our server. No, they are very dynamic. They'll go down and up all the time. Okay, and next thing is all this is coming from the IP ranges. You should not configure any applications based on IPs. So imagine you have an application server and basically you configure the application server to connect to a database pod which is running on 10.68.88.196. Imagine I'm going to delete that pod. For example, I'm going to say k delete pod and I'm going to do this, and the pod is deleted, by the way. Okay, if I say get pods again, you see the new pod is this one. It got a 197. So that means again you need to reconfigure the application to connect to this 197. Again this goes down, it will get some other IP. Again you need to know. That's absolutely not right. You don't do that basically. That is why IP address don't have any value. Yes, IP address is required, by the way, but it is not having any value in Kubernetes when you are actually doing the application stuff. So the major value will be there for only for name resolution, DNS name resolution actually, which we're going to talk later, by the way. But IP address has very less value. Okay, you should not do anything based upon the IP. Don't configure any applications based on the IP. Okay, right. So if I say ku get pods, right, and you can notice that I have the pods running. Now this is interesting here. How are you going to connect it? Yesterday also we have this deployments in pods, but you can't connect to this one. There are multiple ways you can do this. You can actually connect to this one. Imagine without having, you can create a service, but what you can do is you can actually use something called as a port forwarding, and you can connect. Right now if I want to connect to this pod, okay, I can't connect directly from internet or something, but I want to troubleshoot whether the website is running or not. So how to do that one? Okay, so one thing we can do is, yes, you can actually find the IP. You can find the IP and you can say like curl, and if you try to connect to the server which is in 44, which is this one, we can try to curl it and you get this one like welcome to Nginx. Basically you can do that. You can do that basically, but this is not ideal way of doing it. This is basically not a ideal way of doing it actually. Now there is one more called as port forwarding we can do. For example, imagine I have this basically I have this cluster, right? Ku get pods. Now I'm actually managing the cluster from where? From actually from this machine, right? 10144. Imagine I want to do from this Windows machine. How I can do that? So for that, what you require is, so you require something called as a kube config. I'll say like a cat. It will be under root folder dot kube, or sorry, in the home folder I think so. Let's see. Yeah. Say pwd where I'm in slash root. So I say cat slash root dot kube config as a config. Now this is your cluster information, folks. This is your cluster information starting from here until here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to basically there is some on the config actually. Let me delete everything, put it here, put it here, and save it. But it might not work. If you see, this is a private cluster. If you notice, this is a private cluster. It might not work because my server is in a different totally in a different account actually. Okay, so it might not work, but what you can do is, this is how you can actually create. You need to share a config file to the people and they can able to work it. So what I'll do is, let me deploy a Windows server actually. Here I'm going to go to launch instance. I want to show you how we can actually manage from a Windows server. I'm going to go here and I'm going to launch a 2019 server, and I'm going to basically use the T2 large, by the way. I'm going to put in the same network where we have this one. So I say add storage, add tags, name. So I say like K8s Windows management, by the way. Configure the security group, launch it. So normally in general, I'm going to put running. So kmaster 02. This. Okay, I got my Windows master, but one thing I need to do is I need to wait for a while, by the way, because what will happen in order to log into a server, a Windows server, it will take 4 minutes to commit actually. So then once I commit, what I'm going to